Coffee, joined by my co-host Ken 100, and of course our lovely panel today. We're going to get into that in just a minute. This show is on X and it is also on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and comment, then we'll be able to actually filter the comments and show them on screen, but we'll still see your comments on X as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. This show is obviously brought to you by Ninja Alerts, who, by the way, just dropped an awesome banner giveaway. Did you guys see that today on Trevor's account? The new banners. We got to take a look at this real quick. Obviously brought to you by Ninja Alerts. We got to look at some Ninja Alert stuff. What do you guys think about these banners?
Fire.
Yeah, these are sick. And then I think he just posted another one too. I didn't even know these were coming. I'm with Ninja Alerts. I didn't know these were coming. They came out left. Did you know these were coming, Ken?
No, I did not, Chris. No, I did not.
They came out of left field, man. So I really like them.
Yeah, they're pretty dope.
I know. I'm kind of mad that team members didn't get hooked up with them, before everybody else. But here we are.
We're not, Chris. We're not getting hooked up with nothing, Chris. What's going on, bro? We're inside, and we don't get hooked up with nothing. We still have to grind. We still have to do our videos. We both ate pizza.
That's true.
Like, bro, man, what's up with Trevor, bro?
I don't know, man. I don't know. We're gonna have to report that to the upper management. But yeah, so the latest on Ninja Alerts is definitely these banners. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say the next phase yet, but be tuned in for the rest of the allow list phase. You're gonna see that very soon. So be sure you have notifications on Trevor, notifications on Ninja Alerts to be tuned for that. So with all that being said, I'd like to introduce our special guest today, Bruffstar from Ordinals Bot. We're going to get into that with many questions alongside of it. Before going into that, we have to address the main topic, the main news today, something that just completely took everybody up by storm. CZ, founder of Binance, charged $4 billion by the Department of Justice for misuse of funds and a lot of other things. So what kind of impact does this have on crypto, on Bitcoin? What's your thoughts just generally to the panel on the situation? Not everybody at once now.
Anybody could go.
I was going to let the guest start off the conversation.
All right, sure. I can go for it. I can go for it. Well, I mean, yeah, it's crazy news. I read his tweet. It's quite a heartfelt tweet. I'm sure, it's quite a difficult, thing for him to go through. Binance was essentially his startup 6 years ago, and he built it into what it is today. They've had a lot of controversy, built into that story along the way, and it kind of came to a head now. So I think that it's a good thing for crypto overall. I think that it clears a lot of way for things like the ETF to go through, and there's like no more excuses, kind of. You use Binance a lot to lean on things for for stories to dodge other issues, and I guess that now that frees that up. And reading CZ's tweet, kind of announcement, he mentioned that he's got to take a step back and do some other things that he enjoys and try maybe not do another startup. He's done that now. So interesting to see where he goes. Interesting to see what it means for the space. And interested to see, what the SEC how they react to it in terms of what are they got to be can't use that as an excuse anymore, essentially. So yeah, interesting to see.
I like what you said there. The SEC can't use it as an excuse anymore. That's kind of how I've been viewing this since it dropped. Is this was supposed to be top 3 FUD in crypto, was waiting for Binance news. But to me, as of right now, it looks like a fine, a step down, and whatever the leave that he has to do for 3 years or something like that. But ultimately, if investors are safe, then this is nowhere near an FTX debacle. I mean, Sam Bankman-Fried facing 100 years in prison versus CZ possibly not even getting jail time. This is kind of a win to me. And this is also another step towards regulation, maybe getting those ETFs in. But I don't know. Am I being too optimistic there?
Well, okay, so I'm curious, the illegal activity that he was participating in, I just want to know what all that entailed and the nitty gritty of all that. So if y'all know, that would be amazing. But other than that, it feels like a win just for self-custody, right? So being sure that everything that you're transacting on no matter what happens to these exchanges, that you are taking that within yourself to have full control, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because like not your whatever the saying is.
Not your keys, not your crypto.
There you
Not
go.
your keys.
There you go. So I'm down with that, and just to like drive that home to everybody that doesn't participate in that and keeps their money on exchanges, especially after FTX. I think that just like taking that as a learning lesson. But yeah, I'm glad that he's stepping down and taking the fall for and the brunt of it. But yeah, I'd like to know what all he's been charged with. But I mean, like, it's like deep state activity, right? It doesn't matter what happens. And this is just like complete conspiracy, but if you piss off the right people, especially in the government, oh God, I said all the right words for them to come for me. So
FBI enters the chat.
yeah, NSA.
You were already on that list anyway. You're
Oh,
already
I'm
on that
definitely on that list.
You might have. That's a free run from here on out, right?
So to answer the question on the illegal activity, I actually watched the entire Department of Justice live thing that they did on this today. Don't ask me why. So he got charged for conspiracy, conducting unlicensed money transmitters business, and violating International Emergency Economic Powers Act. But like what they actually like stuck him with was like kind of dumb. Basically, they were saying that he knowingly allowed people to use crypto to like fund Hamas, Israel, war, drugs, like the typical like 2016 Bitcoin arguments. Like, oh, these people were using Bitcoin for these bad things and you allowed it, so we're charging you. Because, nobody's ever done that with the US dollar. Like, the US dollar has never been used for drugs. It's never been used for war. It's never been used for money.
Never.
Yeah, never. I mean, in case the right person's watching this. But so a lot of those charges that they brought up in the Department of Justice live thing that they did, they were bringing a lot of that involved with it. And then, of course, like money laundering. And this isn't like, for a lot of people, this didn't seem like a shock. Like, this was something that was actually predicted on quite a few accounts that this would have to happen. A lot of the accounts even went to the extreme to saying that this, and this goes back to what you were saying, Witter, is almost a conspiracy side. This needed to happen in order to move them out of the way for the ETF approval, because they were basically saying that everything lined up for the BlackRock ETF approval, but Binance basically had too much influence in it. Now, I don't know that technical side of things or legal side of things. I just know it's interesting if Binance was the last thing in the way or one of the last things in the way, how they interestingly just got moved out by, the bigger powers. But yeah, also the 4.3 billion, whatever it was one of the largest charges they've ever done on this scale towards something like this. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, no, I think that those are really good points. And I did see all of the accounts talking about that this is something that needed to be done. And I think that there is always a fall guy, right? There's always going to be a fallout person that everything is blamed on. And I'm going to venture to say that that's not such a bad thing. The major thing that is recurrent across, the crypto side, everyone knows a regulation is eventually going to come. Regulation is the one that is going to bring it even more mainstream. We've had a little bit here and there, but regulation is the one that's truly going to open up the doors for a lot of more mainstream capability and open it up for a lot more people to come in. You do not get regulation until the government starts to think that they are able to control and are able to clean the house and are able to make things a lot more safer for, the greater good, et cetera. So these are the type of things, FTX, Binance, et cetera. These are the type of things that makes perfect sense that has to happen before the rest of it can happen. I think that, financially, those of us that are here every single day are able to recognize that this is the flow. This is the way. This is exactly what happens when you operate within the crypto area. And you learn to take advantage of these times, right? And you learn to read between the lines, et cetera. So, is it that much of a surprise that it would come from Binance? Maybe not. That's kind of exactly the type of person that would be targeted with this.
Yeah, I completely agree, Bill. Is there?
No, I was just gonna read the comment that Kevo just said, or Kevio, a crook with money got busted and had $4 billion in his back pocket to get off without going to jail. Now crypto can move forward in the U.S. You guys agree with that statement?
I think I read somewhere that he's only got to pay 100 million or something. It's not actually got to be $4 billion. I think it's actually more like 100 billion. 100 million, sorry, he has to pay. I think that's what I read, but I mean that was a tweet, so who knows?
Still a lot of money, bro.
Yeah.
4 billion, 100 million, just like that.
Net
I
worth,
like
his net worth
100
is
mil.
93 billion, I think. And I think so. A lot of people are saying like obviously the BNB plays into that, but I think the market cap of BNB is like 36 bill. So I mean, he's still got a lot to play with. I'm not saying that's all cash reserve by any means, but I mean the dude's worth, Binance is worth a lot of money. So I mean, even 4 billion at the end of the day, if this kind of ends this cycle that we've kind of had building up, then I think that's still a win. So, but all that being said, unless there's any other thoughts, I do want to also get into.
Do we know who's going to step up for him?
Yeah, he announced.
I think it was a CTO or someone who worked high level in Binance. So he's already ready to replace them as CEO.
And he's still on the board and all that. He's still going to be getting his. He's still going to be getting paid.
I'm not sure.
He still owns Binance. He's just not the CEO.
Oh, okay. So just a slap on the wrist.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I mean, to me, from what I'm saying,
Very much.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be fine. It doesn't matter. But let's just take this as a, if it's not just like a target and just like the glass half full kind of mentality, and instead that maybe some of these exchange CEOs and operators, maybe they're not the best people. And because money can influence you, especially when you got that kind of money coming in, you can be persuaded in multiple different ways. So yeah, just a word of caution, I guess.
What do you guys think about the price action? Because, I was looking at the numbers today. I mean, we're red across the board and we have been all day essentially, but it's not drastic to the point that I, thought that it would be. Bitcoin is 3.8% down, ETH 3.7, nothing crazy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because obviously it wasn't another.
Binance. Sorry, before you said Binance, I mean Binance is at
Yeah, of course, it's a different story. But the overall crypto market, I think, are realizing it's not another FTX. It's kind of a controlled situation. He took most of the heat for it. They've replaced the CEO, and maybe they're going to do some things differently then. And also, I think what I mentioned earlier is people are maybe anticipating that it does clear the path for that ETF. So I wouldn't expect a massive dump.
So what we're saying is not Grayscale, so sorry. BlackRock and Vanguard saw CZ out and was like, nah, you're a hurdle for me. And what I'm going to do is get the government that I'm really heavily tied into, and I'm going to just go ahead and remove you from that position and bring the price of crypto in this case, Bitcoin, to what I would like.
I mean, I didn't say that.
I didn't either. That was only my mouth.
Don't come after me, BlackRock, please. I mean,
that's just Witters and Ken saying that. So whoever's watching.
Wait, what?
The rest of us are just observing.
Yeah, me too. I didn't say that. Ken said that.
Yeah, all right. We'll pin that on Ken.
Well, Chris, man, how many more of your legends are gonna go to jail, Chris? Like Martin Shkreli, you used to look up to Martin Shkreli. Then there was that other dude last year.
Yeah, it is, bro.
With FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried. You looked up to him. I saw your videos. You did op-ed pieces about him.
Yeah, about his arrest and his fraudulent activities. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
more people are gonna go to jail, bro. A lot more,
yeah.
a lot more people
Or
are
they're
gonna go
just
to
going to take
jail.
settlement. Or
A
they're just
lot
gonna
more
take
people
settlement.
have to go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of part of the. I mean, if you screwed so many people over, it's kind of part of it. But I don't know. Like a lot of things they charge CZ with. I mean, granted, I guess I can do more digging. Just kind of looked like kind of like a him and government problem. Didn't really look like a him and like investors problem. Like, you know, whereas like Sam Bankman like clearly like misused customer funds and screwed over tons of people. CZ's is more like money laundering, apparent like illegal use of funds or whatever. But like I mean, if investors are safe, then to me that's more of a win. But I don't know. I'm not saying he's a good guy, but I don't think it's the same, you know, bucket.
Lord, no.
Wait, isn't that the logo on your shirt, Chris?
Oh man, this is
Isn't that the Binance logo?
yeah. I wore this Binance logo specifically for this episode, man.
Hold on, let me take a closer look. Oh, okay. I thought that said CZ just now. My fault.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness. All right, man. So let's move on a little bit. We have a special guest, as I mentioned today. I've already introduced Bruff Star, with the co-founder of Ordinals Bot. Ordinals Bot allows you to inscribe ordinals on Bitcoin easily. I've done this before. I did this back in like February when Ordinals first became a thing. So yeah, I really just want to, you know, we're gonna, and everybody, the whole panel, feel free to input, ask questions, whatever. But I kind of want to dig into this, you know, while you're joined us today. We're gonna go way back, way back. How'd you even first get into NFTs?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, the story started basically in 2017. I got into crypto, and I was kind of really interested in Bitcoin at the time. And then I rode the whole DeFi wave and had my fair share of rug pulls and different things like that, and really got interested in it then as well. And then at the end of like 2020, as the DeFi kind of thing was kind of cooling off a little bit, I started seeing that projects starting to say holders are going to get these NFTs, and I wasn't even sure what they were. And I looked at them, I realized, they're digital collectibles, and that's basically. I remember the crypto kitties and the punks as well, and I kind of realized, okay, that's what NFTs are, and they started to really get popular at the end of 2020. But the artwork was absolutely terrible. It was like the worst artwork you've ever seen coming from these DeFi projects. So I realized that if this is going to take off, and basically NFTs are going to be a thing in 2021, then essentially it'll be decent artwork. It'll be maybe, good collectibles. It'll be like projects. So that kind of put a bug in me to try and launch my own collection. And as I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin, and I love the lore of Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows who he or she is. And I love that aspect of Bitcoin. So I wanted to try and create an NFT project around about that. And I found a really great artist from Morocco, Ayub, who's still with the project today. Fantastic comic book artist, and it was really the style I wanted to go for. So I sent him a photo of Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto, who, if you're not aware, he's the guy in 2014 who everybody said, "You're Satoshi," and he says, "No, I'm not." So he's also part of the journey. And I sent a photo of Dorian to Ayub, and he's like, who is this? Is this your uncle? Like, he had no idea what I was trying to achieve. He didn't know what an NFT was either. And it was basically like, I had to explain to him, I'm trying to make this collection of artwork. And I said to him, just draw that one. So he drew Satoshi number 1, which was Dorian. And then I said, okay, now take his hair off and add a clown hat and add Bitcoin glasses. And we did this for a few months and fine-tuned all the artwork. And then I launched it in June 2021. Perfect timing. We minted all 5,000 over a weekend. It was the craziest weekend of my life. And that's actually where I met Trevor. So I was watching all the mints come in, and then I realized, someone just minted 50 of these things, like what, for 1 Ethereum? And I'm like, wow, it was amazing. And then I get a DM. Trevor slid into my DM and said, this was me. These are really cool, but they belong on Bitcoin. You shouldn't have minted them on Ethereum,
Oh, Trevor said that?
Yeah, I got some slack.
That is hilarious.
So that led me on the journey then with to get into stacks. Obviously, Trevor, because I said to Trevor, like, Bitcoin NFTs, it's not a thing, and he said, well, you can do NFTs on stacks, and that's that's L2 on Bitcoin. So that really excited me. I thought, well, maybe we've got a chance to get over, and I can launch this collection there and become maybe the crypto punks of Bitcoin. So I didn't want to just copy the 5,000 and do a duplicate collection on Bitcoin. So what I did essentially is I created the first NFT bridge from Ethereum to Stacks. So my users, or my holders, sorry, could actually bridge their NFT from Ethereum over to Stacks and vice versa. It's a two-way bridge. And that was a really cool thing. Everyone was excited. We got about 40% of the collection bridged over. And that was my forte into Stacks. And I was building in Stacks up until Ordinals came along. And that really turned basically everything upside down. That was in January this year. I got introduced to Ordinals and really kind of solely focused on that, because the Ordinals, if you're not aware, that it's true on-chain data storage, essentially on directly on Bitcoin L1. And yeah, I've stopped there, but that's where I started the journey into Ordinal Spot as well.
For a little history on Trevor, is his PFP was a Satoshable for a long time. For those that weren't following him for a while, I like specifically remember that. And also, you mentioned your inspiration was the founder, or nobody knows the founder but Satoshi. So are you telling me the founder of Bitcoin wasn't CZ?
Yeah, it's unfortunately due to my research, my extensive research, I found out it actually wasn't CZ. But CZ Tatoshables are coming soon, I guess. With all this hype, maybe I'll launch a CZ collection soon.
That's awesome, man. Is there any other input before the next question? You got something, Ken?
No, if you do drop that CZ, let me know in advance. Make sure I front run everything. Okay, everything. No, just let me know in advance, please.
No problem.
He needs a full 24 hours ahead.
No worries.
And we need a full 48 hours.
Oh no! I was trying to dump on Chris though, bro.
Man, a little side note. I did that before. So this person had like a subscription to where like they told their followers before they like told the public, and they're an influencer. So like obviously like it was kind of a sketchy system. Like basically their subscribers would like dump on the public. So I front ran the transaction, like viewing it like in real time, and I front ran the subscribers. So it was kind of a cycle. Like they thought they were dumping on somebody, but they were my exit liquidity.
Look at you.
Fun time.
Yeah, Chris is a savage. He's a savage.
This age is behind me, man.
You're saying, so you're telling me that influencers actually do that?
Yeah, he's pretty clear about it too. Like on Twitter, like subscribe to buy, whatever, so you can see what I buy when I buy it. Which so like they're not going to like clearly say like, you can buy it before the public sees it, but it's there. I mean, it's in writing. Like, oh yeah, you can buy this before I post about it.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
There's people like that. So
let me explain how savage this guy is.
Oh,
like we was doing a show where we were trading. Belle, you're familiar. You was on the show a few times, and Chris front ran the hell out of me. Like he told me he minted something, right? And then when it was pumping, he told me to go buy it. Exactly when he told me to go buy it is when he dumped it. Exact same time. So I bought his trash at the top. And then he came on the show the next day to laugh at me for buying his trash. When I thought he was trying to help me. I thought he was a good guy. You know how nice Chris is, the way he's soft-spoken. I thought he was trying to help me out.
Don't hate the player, hate the game, man,
That's true.
Like, life is full of hard lessons, and they make you a stronger person.
That's
it
true.
It was a trading show, though. Chris was just setting the example.
Yeah, here's what not to do. That didn't really happen the way Ken said it happened. It might have happened a little similar.
But it happened. It happened though. It didn't happen the exact way. I didn't buy your trash, but you did dump exactly when you sent me that message.
I don't know if it was like that, Ken, but we got to go on to the next question. We're going to talk about some problems. What limitation did you encounter on Ethereum? Because we were originally talking about how you started off on Ethereum, specifically when it comes to smart contracts and how that might have affected the art.
Yeah, I mean, I came into this blind, so I'm a front end developer, so I definitely wasn't a blockchain developer at the time. So I had to kind of learn smart contract development and understand what an ERC 721 was, all the kind of NFT jargon. I had to learn all of that before I launched this thing. So as I was doing all that, obviously the artwork was getting generated, and then we came together and launched it. But what I realized was, quickly is, to get these 2,000 by 2,000 high quality, pieces of art essentially into the NFT, I had to upload them to somewhere like IPFS or Arweave, essentially these decentralized storage systems. And even that now, I realize over time, but at the time that was the best that we could do. We could just put them off, you couldn't put them on chain without spending an absolute fortune. And then even then, the technical limitations of the smart contract was quite difficult. And then you have to use IPFS, like I mentioned, which was kind of which is kind of like not really decentralized because someone has to host that stuff. So that's where the light bulb really shined for me in January when I started looking into ordinals and said, okay, this data that you're actually putting on is you're actually putting it on chain. You're inscribing those bytes actually on Bitcoin L1 blockchain in the transaction, and that was a real light bulb moment for me. And I realized this could be absolutely huge. So the first thing I tried to do again was like figure out how does this work. How do you do that? And that led me down the road of like looking into ordinals, figuring out how it worked, and then I can talk about later how we actually turned it into a product as well. But in general, at the time, the only thing you could do on Ethereum was essentially IPFS, which is the way we like to describe it now is like those kind of NFTs on Ethereum are essentially digital certificates to somewhere else. They're not actually on chain. They're just like a certificate of ownership rather than the actual artwork itself.
So I think it was earlier this week. Tio was having someone. I can't remember what their name was, and I would love to go back and find that actual I guess the space. It was the ordinal space, and he had somebody on there describing like IPFS, but how very expensive it is, not only to put things on chain on Ethereum, right? So I think most of the allure to Bitcoin is the on-chainness, I guess, the best way to describe it. But it's getting very expensive. We're seeing that the sats per VBI is just climbing. I'm honestly concerned that it'll never come back down, and for my own sake. But at the same time, like, no matter what you do on chain, whether it's Ethereum or Bitcoin, it's expensive. But like, so I'm curious, moving to Bitcoin, have you found like cost efficiency in doing that, or is it essentially the same, but you chose Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great question because you can put stuff on chain on Ethereum, right? You can put data directly into a smart contract, or you can have a function where you pass the data in through a function, a smart contract, and if it's in the transaction, it means it's on chain. But like Bitcoin, that can become very expensive, a huge gas fee on Ethereum. But my argument is, well, if you can do it on Ethereum, then what's the big deal about just putting it on Bitcoin? And my argument is quite simple. It's like, it's very hard to change the Bitcoin network. It took us like 6 years to get Taproot, which is a fairly crazy change. It took us 6 years to get that implemented on Bitcoin, whereas Ethereum is run by the foundation. They're going through all sorts of splunges and trunges, or whatever all these series of changes are going through right now. They've got a master plan, and you just can't do that with Bitcoin. So when you talk about on-chain, that's really the power of Bitcoin, is that when you put it on chain, it really is on chain, and there's no stopping it, and there's no changing it. It really is totally immutable. Whereas on Ethereum, they could completely change the whole network if they wanted to, and change the way things work and wipe out. They could change the file size or whatever, and all these things they could do on Ethereum. So, and then like you said at the end there, it is Bitcoin. So there's this allure. I mean, everybody knows Bitcoin. Everybody knows where it sits in the space. And it has this special kind of feeling to it. And then I think in terms of the fees, definitely wasn't more cost efficient to put things on Bitcoin. It's actually the opposite. It is a very premium, I like to call it premium real estate. you know, if you want to use it. And I think personally that's a really great thing, because when you look at chains like Solana, when it costs like $5 to mint like 25,000 NFTs or whatever it is, where's the value there? You know, like the value of these things are quite low because anybody can do it. Whereas that barrier that you've got with that price, you know, you're only going to inscribe stuff if you really want to get that on chain, and the value is then intrinsically built into any collections that you launch, etc. So I think that that's a real cool thing, and it's already played out in the last 9 months of 10 months that we've been in the space. We've seen the quality of artwork and the quality of collections and the quality of digital collectibles. It's really up there, you know. And I think that that's what my take on it is. Basically, it's a good barrier to stop people just minting 400,000 random pieces of art.
Lord, yeah. And two, like for artists, I think it's the most luxurious canvas that you could possibly put your art on. And I think that you'll see as soon as there's like an education barrier. These artists that have very high resolution images, being able to represent that well on chain is like the current dilemma. And like we have, of course, like so many different things, but they don't know about it. They just see currently the sats per VByte, but also just like that cap on the file size. But yeah, no, that's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, the file size thing has been another limitation, right? There's only 350, actually 400 kilobytes in a standard Bitcoin transaction and 4 megabytes in a block. So even that is a huge limitation. But it's also something that we've found really cool ways to do it about. And I can talk about later as well what I've been working on with Trevor in terms of the Ninja Alerts collection. We've been doing some really cool tricks to get maximum quality at like a super low size. So I can touch on that later. And one artist and I've been inscribing a lot of things for other artists and collectors over the last year, basically. And they've been coming, like you said, with these 4 megabyte 4K images and like put it on chain. And it's like, well, yeah, it's got to cost about 25 Bitcoin to get it on chain. So what can you do? And you know, there's loads of optimization you can do. You can without compromising quality. So that I've been really good at that. And there's loads of other tips and tricks that you can use to get the file size down. One of the artists actually said something interesting to me, which was blockchain as a canvas. You mentioned canvas there. He actually said that to me. He said he quite likes that limitation because it makes his mind think, I have to maybe consider file size and how we got to work that into the story of the art. So blockchain as a canvas, that really stuck with me.
Awesome. So you actually answered the next question already, so I'll move past that. I'll go ahead and just like say what it was. But basically asking what sets Ordinals apart as a solution in the NFT space. But that premium real estate that you're discussing, I feel like really tackles that. The next section, one, is just to tell us more about the success of Ordinals Bot and how it simplifies the inscription process. And then after this, we can get into what you are going to talk about, which I'm assuming is the Ninja Alerts thing with recursion. But let's go ahead and focus on this first. Can you tell us more about the success of Ordinals Bot?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I got into this in January, and I already have my Satoshibles collection and my Satoshibles community. So I've always got that in mind to think, what can we do for the community? What can we build next? What can we try? What can we experiment with? And we're a Bitcoin themed NFT, and this is a Bitcoin L1 data. So I was all in looking at it, and it went right over my head. I'm like, man, you need to have a Bitcoin node. You need to run the Ord client. I've never done that before. It was really difficult for me to try and understand. To inscribe something, you have to have those two components. So I reached out to a friend of mine. I said, hey, can you inscribe this thing for me? It was my PFP. And because he already had set up his node and everything. And I went through the process with him, sent him the image. He sent it back to me, the inscription, and it was cool. I was like, okay, I've got it on chain. But like, that's really friction. That's a lot of friction for people. And it gave me this idea of like, would it be cool to make it really easy for people? And I worked with my co-founder for a couple of years now on different things. He's been a Bitcoin dev for over 10 years. And when I reached out to him and mentioned it to him, he said he's already building it. So he was already building the back end of what is now Ordinals bot. And as I mentioned, I'm a front end developer, so I slapped a front end on it. We launched it over the weekend, and we got absolutely bombarded with degens. The Bitcoin punks, like mint, was happening at that time, and at the time, people were in Discord saying, "Give me $1,000 and I'll inscribe one for you." So it was like OTC inscription trading, and now our service comes along with a really really low fee. And people just jumped on our website. They actually melted our server. We had to like go down for 6 hours and scale up. But yeah, that was a really crazy day. So basically, during the first month, we generated about $1 million in revenue. Just we captured that market really well because we were the only essentially set inscription service at the time. And then since then, we've been able to close our seed round. Bitcoin Frontier Fund was an investor with Trevor, and we closed our seed round just there early in October. And we're continuing to basically become more of an infrastructure company where people can use our backend and our tooling and our API to build a lot of cool stuff. And that's kind of where we're at today. In the team, we've got a team of 8 now. And yeah, it's been really, really fun journey.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times people were like, I wish I was early to Bitcoin Ordinals, but during that first month, you had to run a Bitcoin node and you had to be able to understand like a Sparrow wallet and like navigate through it. And if you weren't already used to the ecosystem, it wasn't like a, just a natural thing that people knew how to do. So it's not like, we were just doing that. So actually, my first attempt at an inscription was using Ordinals bot in February. And I talked a little bit with Rough Star before the show about this, but I don't think I ever went through the transaction because basically at the time I didn't really have like Bitcoin I wanted to trade. I had like Bitcoin that's like tucked away, but I didn't have any that was like in a wallet ready to use. And I was having trouble with that at the time. So I don't think I ever followed through. It would have been like the first like 10K inscriptions too, I think. But yeah, I did use the Ordinals bot like right when it released, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the UI is still the same as it was then. So essentially, it's just you just drag and drop the file. So it's a drag and drop interface. It's literally that easy, and then you put your Bitcoin address in there where you want it to be sent. We inscribe it and send it directly to the wallet. So it's literally a couple of step process, and it's been working really great so far. Yeah. So I also did I minted a bunch of Satoshiables at 50,000. So we did like the Ordinals collection for Satoshiables as well. And that was pretty interesting. Yeah, that's it there. So drag and drop. You can. This is Leonidas' video. Yeah, this is an old UI. Yeah, yeah. So this is an old video. So one cool thing. We've also had Lightning payments since the start as well. So you can pay with Lightning, and basically that means the inscription starts straight away. So that's also pretty cool. I think we're still the only ones with Lightning payments.
That's cool.
I actually had the same experience. I never ended up doing it because it was, it's funny. I never ended up doing it, but I went through all of the steps. It was back when you had to communicate like OTC, you had to communicate with the artist and figure in, directly with them, etc. And I went through the same thing, never ended up doing it, but I can't tell you how cool it was to see it like being built every single day. Of seeing it happen on the spot.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, absolutely. The speed that this ecosystem has came to fruition has been absolutely crazy. We were just one inscription service, but I think like Chris mentioned at the time, it was only Sparrow wallet that was available. But the speed that the likes of Xverse and Hero, Leather now came into the space and just like offered something up really quickly, and then all the marketplaces popped up and everything. So. I'm just really gobsmacked that we built all of this basically in a bear market with no smart contracts on Bitcoin directly. I mean, that's just mind blowing. It's all PSBT based. It's all Bitcoin native technology. We didn't have to change Bitcoin in any way. And now we've got an industry with like BRC20 tokens and collections and communities being born on Bitcoin and builders getting really excited. The amount of excitement we have seen of people coming from Ethereum and Polygon who were Bitcoiners at the beginning, who left the network because it was not doing anything, and all the shiny stuff that was happening on other chains. Now they're coming back to Bitcoin. They're coming back home to their roots and basically really excited about that fact. So, in general, it's been a really, really great thing for Bitcoin. And the fee argument is definitely a good discussion to have. And the mempool blows up and all these discussions, but again, my counter argument to that is basically like ordinals are not perfect right now either. There's so many optimizations you can make to make that a lot better on chain, and I think that the difference is that basically in the ordinals ecosystem is that we're not scared to just do something, and rather than talk about it and argue about it for 6 years and nothing gets done, which was happening previously, the ordinals ecosystem is like, you know what, let's just try this and then optimize over time and see how it goes, and I think the net positive is the amount of excitement that's happening around Bitcoin now is definitely outweighing the negative impacts, in my opinion.
Lord, yeah. And then too, like the sharing of information and what people are building is so active on Bitcoin that like everybody's sharing their like Git bugs or like whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I'm not a coder, so that is
That was close. That was close.
GitHub.
Yeah.
Is it GitHub?
Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, GitHub.
I knew it was GitHub some.
Gitbuck.
Well, Gitbook is the documentation, so you use Gitbook for documentation.
Gitbook. Okay.
Good.
I thought you said Getbuck.
No, like
I heard something else.
GIT.
IT. Yes, you got it.
And in the same sense, like that's how Bitcoin came, and rose to its prominence, is this sharing and decentralized way. I wish like research and different things in like the science field was more like that, instead of like very secretive, like I'm working on this and I'm not going to share it with anyone. And seeing that, like I had the biggest fumble whenever so it was like early February, and I had this show. It was like Degens Anonymous, and I would just bring forth whatever I found on the dark webs, right? And so ordinals were like just now surfacing. Like I begged ZK and I begged Leonidas to come and like explain. They finally did, but my biggest fumble was I traded Nolish's pieces on ETH because they were a bridge from ETH to Bitcoin, and I traded them on ETH, and I didn't hold them, and I regret that to this day.
Absolutely,
very much so. But yeah, no, it's just fascinating how fast it's moved because of the way that I feel like just people that are interested in Bitcoin and people that are participating in ordinals, the sharing of knowledge and the pace, right? The pace is just ridiculous.
Definitely, and I think there's also an aspect of like we can learn from the past. We've seen what worked and what didn't work on Ethereum, and a lot of those models have played out as well. So the marketplaces spun up really quickly because they had that model to just look at the OpenSea model and they knew what was needed. Same with wallets, etc. But to your point about the Bitcoin kind of ethos, I think that is really deep in a lot of the teams and the big teams, and certainly our team and the ecosystem, and we bring that kind of ethos to it. We're really decentralization maxis, and we try and figure out how to do that, and we basically build around about that, and we're all very competitive in the space here. We're building businesses, but at the same time we're all willing to help each other out. I mean, I came from Ethereum, and I can tell you it's cutthroat. I mean, it's really cutthroat at the time. Even just try to like get a collaboration with someone, they're just like, what are you giving me? It's like really cutthroat kind of stuff. Everyone looked out for themselves, and I'm not saying it's going to last forever on Bitcoin. As the degens roll in, there'll be unfortunately probably some scams and some things, and people need to watch out. We can't also sit there in the fire and sing kumbaya. If we're being real, when the degens come, the scams come as well. So but at the same time, we can learn a lot from what we learned on other chains and hopefully apply that now to Bitcoin. And we can see hopefully nobody lose funds and stuff. But yeah, interesting to see where it all plays out.
Yeah, I do have a quick question for you, bruv. How do you feel about all the people in the Ordinal ecosystem celebrating when they add BRC20 movements into the overall NFT market for Bitcoin, and they gloat about it being higher than Ethereum NFTs, and they consider BRC20s as NFTs. Do you consider BRC20s as NFTs?
No, of course not. I mean, they're fungible tokens, right? And I think it's a very, very valid argument to say you can't line up that, you can't compare that volume to the Ethereum volume without including the fungible, the ERC20 volume in that bundle as well. I mean, it's clear. That's a clear argument. But I agree completely. But, at the same time, you cannot deny the traction that's been happening on Bitcoin in terms of just the fees of when the network activity has tenfolded, since that time, and the excitement over Bitcoin is clear. So, and the traction is really clear in my mind as well when you look at all the stats. So that's what I look at. Basically, I look at where was Bitcoin this time last year compared to now, and it's like night and day, right, in terms of activity and excitement and people building. So that's what I'm more passionate about, rather than looking at numbers and kind of artificially putting them into this mold. That will eventually come, in my opinion, right? Bitcoin is the biggest, blockchain in the world, and the dream is that big unlock will happen when we build these tools. So we'll see. But maybe this time next year we can do that chart without, modifying it in a weird way, like you mentioned.
Yeah, let Trevor know that. Trevor is leading the charge in this.
Yeah, maybe I can take it up with him offline, but I'm just going to let Trevor do Trevor. He's a marketing genius, and I'll let him do that. But I definitely am on your camp in terms of I wouldn't post about that personally, but at the same time I would post about all the exciting things that happen on Bitcoin. And then I truly believe that those charts will reflect, even if you added in the ERC20 volume, I'm pretty sure Bitcoin will surpass it maybe this time next year.
Wow,
if you add ERC20s?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I mean, if we're all building, as I mentioned, we're all building in this space right now to mimic what's happened on other chains. And Bitcoin liquidity has just been locked for years and years, and that if we unlock that, it's multiple X's larger than Ethereum is. So it could eclipse Ethereum essentially if it follows the same trajectory.
So we have 10 minutes left. I really want to ask you. I really want to ask you this question though before we kind of get to the end of this end of the show. You mentioned earlier working with Ninja Alerts. It doesn't have to be specifically with Ninja Alerts, but just how recursion plays in. So how does the introduction of recursion change the landscape for NFTs and smart contracts?
Absolutely. So like we mentioned earlier, with the artwork being huge and trying to inscribe that, one thing that's really unlocked that capability is recursion. And what recursion is in the ordinals landscape is the ability to essentially import parts of other ordinals, import other ordinals into one ordinal to create a kind of solid piece. And for Ninja Alerts specifically, Boozy, the artist behind Ninja Alerts, who I've been a fan of for absolutely years, he does all his artwork on an iPad, so the output is actually a PNG. So a really high quality PNG, but a PNG nonetheless. So with a flattened raster image like a PNG, there's no option to break that up. The only option you've got is to compress it down and optimize it, and you're really going to lose that quality. So I really thought about this for Ninja Alerts, and I didn't want to do that. We've got a really amazing artwork, and I didn't want to optimize it, and then you start to see the lines blurring because of the optimization. I wouldn't like that. So what I realized was actually, because Boozy's artwork, and you've seen all the PFPs that Trevor's been sharing, because it's such a clean line, and kind of solid shapes, what I could do is actually convert it to SVG. So I found a really great tool that can convert PNGs to SVG in a really, really solid way. You can't tell a difference. And now what I've done is essentially took a 30 kilobyte image and put it down to a couple of kilobytes because it's an SVG now. So I did that for all the traits for Ninja Alerts. So now all the Ninja Alerts traits are SVG. And with SVG, if you're not familiar with it, it's code. Actually, in the background of an SVG is actually just code. And because it's code, you can change the colors, you can change the properties of it. So now you take one body trait of a ninja, let's say it's an orange one, you don't need to inscribe now 80 different colors. You can inscribe that body once and then change the color dynamically with code. So Trevor's making this literal handbook on Ninja Alerts that he's got to release. It's essentially got a documentation, and all of this stuff's got to be laid out in it. All the stuff that we've been working on for the last months basically is got to be laid out. But that's just one aspect of it. And then once you've got all these SVG elements basically inscribed, what I do is I write some code that will basically pull together the collections based on the JSON that's been outputted with all the metadata. So I can actually build each ninja based on the JSON, pulling in the traits with recursion. And what you get then is the actual ninja that you see in all these profile photos. But that wasn't good enough for Trevor. He wanted to take it a step further and essentially really push the boundaries of what's available on Bitcoin Ordinals and show that difference. And one of the main differences is that essentially these are HTML files that use JavaScript in the background. So JavaScript is a very powerful language in terms of what you can do with it. You can do 3D models, you can do really in-depth calculations, you can do a lot of stuff with JavaScript. And you compare that to the likes of a smart contract on Ethereum and Solidity, you're really limited to the functionality, and you'd need a very, very smart blockchain engineer essentially to try and build all these things. You can't just pull in a 3D library into a smart contract on Ethereum. You can do that on Ordinals. You can use current infrastructure in Web 2 and pull those libraries in. You need to inscribe them first, but once you inscribe them, anybody can then use that library. So that kind of opened up our mind to say, okay, well, we can do all these fun things with JavaScript. So what do we do? What do we want to do in this collection? And then that's where my nightmare began, because Trevor's this idea flowing through every phone call. It's a new feature. But at the same time, I was also adding new features in every phone call as well. And we ended up with something I think is really special. This PFP has a menu button, literally a menu button that you can click on. It opens up, and then you can change the dimensions that dynamically. If you wanted to make a Twitter banner, click a button, boom, you've got it. It's got animation built in, so you can click animate. The thing will actually start animating, and then it'll turn into a GIF dynamically. So you can download that GIF and put it in Discord or Twitter or whatever else. That wasn't good enough. So then the next step to that was, well, can we customize the animation? I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? So you have the ability to actually create your own animations off chain and import them into your own PFP and animate them that way, because it's all frame by frame, so you can animate them. So that was really interesting. And then there's a whole lot of customizations you can do. So we have these things called overlays, where you can click on the menu, click on overlay, and put the GM bubble on your own PFP. Again, really pushing the boundaries to what's available, and it's all based on JavaScript, and it's all kind of bundled in a really cool way where it's all modules essentially. So we inscribe these modules, and now other people could actually go and use the same modules and do similar things to the Ninja Alerts collection in their own collection. And I'm just really excited to get it out there. You know, I think Trevor's, as I say, he's writing the docs for all this. He's got to lay it all out for everybody. And it's more of like each one is more like an app than a PFP, basically, you know. One more final point, which I think is really...
That's an incredible way to say it.
Yeah, one more final really cool thing that I think is really exciting about this is that because of this recursive thing, there's another concept on Ordinals called reinscription. And this is kind of relatively new in the space. It's not as finalized as recursion is. But what reinscription essentially is it's the ability to inscribe again onto the same Satoshi. So you can inscribe multiple inscriptions on the same Satoshi. And what this does actually, it enables upgrades. So we can modularize the script that creates this menu, for example, in the PFP. And then Trevor can actually reinscribe the latest version, V2 of the script, V3 of the script. So we can actually update this app over time as well, which is like mind-blowing. And it's all opt-in. We can do it in a way where actually if you don't want your PFP to upgrade, you can actually lock it and you don't get any updates, etc. So yeah, I'd like to take any questions because there's a ton of really cool stuff about it.
I don't know if you're supposed to say all this. I feel like we need to like take this off air or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, sorry. I'm just excited. I'm excited about
That's amazing. That's amazing. Witter's Bell. You guys have anything?
Lord, no. This I would have loved to know, because like I said before, I'm not a technical person, and my workaround for being able to do that and everything that you're describing is AR, and just to have it, because like that's the allure of being on Bitcoin, is to be on chain, right? With AR and like, so like my collection is a form of QR codes in order, because that's like the simplest thing that I could do. But like what you're describing is like everything that I wanted to do. Okay, so let me ask: can you add like merch shops or anything onto that, or
So-
like as an app?
Yeah, so you're limited to an inscription because, as you know, I don't know if you're aware, but you can't actually link out from an inscription. All of the ordinals explorers essentially they load inscriptions or ordinals in an iframe, which have they're basically sandboxed. So you can't just click to go out of a link, and you can't also like interact with it in a way where you could place an order and it has to send that order to like an order management system. It can't go out, you know. So that's the limitation there. But at the same time, you mentioned about the AR and like maybe building some more dynamic stuff. The really cool thing about that is you could maybe there's JavaScript libraries that can play AR type stuff in a browser, right? And you could like click and it can open your phone or you connect to your webcam or something like that, and then you can like snapshot it. Like literally anything you can do with JavaScript, you can do and you can make an ordinal inscription or collection out of it.
So JavaScript is like essentially everything that we interact with, right?
Yeah, the web browser is based on HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. They're the three main components. The HTML is like the components of the screen, like the menus and everything. The JavaScript connects them together, and the CSS is like the styling of it, the colors and the borders and everything. Those are the three main components. And ordinal inscriptions, you can inscribe HTML. So there's nothing stopping anybody creating a one-page website, actually, and it's been done already, and inscribing that whole HTML page as a website. Now they can just link to their ordinal, and they've got they can put their CV there. There's so many use cases for it, which I think is really exciting. It's really on-chain forever, and it's going back to the fact that it is on-chain forever. It's immutable. Nobody can change it. So yeah, that's really exciting for me.
Yeah, I'm super bricked up with everything. Go ahead, anybody else that wants to chime in? Because I have a lot of questions that time does not allot for.
Well, you can slide in my DMs. I'm happy to talk.
Perfect.
A lot of it is like right through your wheelhouse witters of things that you could apply to your art and to your collections and stuff. I think that it is incredible the level of innovation that your team and just the Ordinals community has been able to build, right? And I think that even for ourselves or the people who operate in this space, listening to you, it's like, holy shit, that's a lot that you just said. Like, how do I even wrap my mind around that, right? Of that capacity. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but to me, when I started, I guess I've always considered Bitcoin as the grandfather, and therefore things go a lot slower, right? It's more sacred, if you will.
Right.
Things just go slower. And so it's really impressive, number one, that we've been able to see so much innovation in such a tremendous short amount of time. And if it's hard for daily users to wrap their minds around, then how much harder is it for an average person that's listening to this and doesn't even understand the technology that a blockchain supports. So I'm really curious from your perspective, what are like some things, and this may be something that you're like, I can't even answer that, Belle, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But what is like the wildest thing that you wish, could already be implemented, innovated, created, that maybe you see happening in the next 6 months or even a year, that a year ago never ever would have thought of?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, already we're there a year. I mean, if you're talking about comparing myself to a year ago, I think we're already there, and it's really seen what we can do on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has really expanded my mind. We've got marketplaces, we've got everything without smart contracts. I would have never guessed that this time last year, for sure. And in terms of just, I think that when this Ninja Alerts collection drops and people start interacting with it, I think then it will be clear to see like the night and day difference between what's possible in Bitcoin. Because believe me, Trevor's doing every single feature that's available in Ordinals at the minute is built into this collection. You've got parent-child, reinscription, recursion, metadata, SVGs essentially is kind of a really cool component to this. Rare sats, we're inscribing everything on pizza sats. Did I say parent-child? Parent-child. So I
Say
think
it again, please.
yeah. So I think all of those components has got to be like night and day compared to any collection that's dropped on Ethereum. For sure, right? I mean, I can't think of one apart from like the old generative like breeding collections like CryptoKitties with that kind of built-in stuff. I can't think of anything else that's happened lately other than just PFPs that have blew to the moon on Ethereum that has this level of interaction on it. So I think it's got to be a real good showcase for people to understand what's possible in Ordinals. And then, yeah, I'm really excited about like generative art as well. The fact that we have JavaScript, there's tons of cool JavaScript libraries that can do really cool generative art. So there's really great artists in this space, like Billy Resty, for example. I'm working with him on doing his latest generative drop as well. So I think it's cool. JavaScript's amazing. JavaScript's powerful. It makes Ordinals powerful. And I'm really excited to see what people build, in the future.
Very cool. Well, if you didn't already have FOMO on Ninja Alerts, then you definitely have it now.
I think I dropped too much alpha.
No, Trevor said it was cool. He dropped he dropped in the
Cool.
comments, and I did want to say real quick too. If you go to our ninjas.pizza, it does talk about the tech on bleeding edge of Ordinals. It kind of talks about some of the things that we just mentioned. Also, we're not fully done with our allow list. There's 1,000 people that are able to get on our allow list. All you have to do is go to ninjaalerts.com/ordinals, do all the little quests, and you can get on that top 1,000 for the allow list to be able to mint in the next phase. Whoops, I realized I wasn't sharing that. Let's share this right now. So as you can see right here, top 1,000, end of promotion to get allow list, do these quests, get on that board to be able to mint a ninja. So I wanted to give that a shout. Man, we still have...
What number do you have to be at right now, Chris?
What
number do you have to be at right now?
So we haven't announced the next phase. We just did the top 300 as of last week. We haven't announced the next batch. So I'm waiting for Trevor is going to announce that soon. I don't want to give away too much. So just be, obviously just be following, ready for Trevor.
No, you know it, and you're going to tell us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is this?
What is
he knows it.
Roughtstar
Press him.
Spilled enough beans tonight. I don't think.
I know you know.
I know you know.
Hey, we're gonna have to bring.
And I know Trevor's watching.
I know.
We need
one thing. I really wish that you would come to like traditional ETH spaces. Where art, so I was that's where I stay, just like talking, because that's where the majority of I would like quotations, bigger artists are that are on any kind of crypto. And I would love for you to come and just kind of like mitigate all of their concerns with moving their art to Bitcoin. And kind of give just like clarity and use case to everything that's available right now. Actually, how much if Brevstar, if Witters was like, Brevstar, what's up? I'm gonna need essentially what Trevor it has laid out for a collection, and I don't care to be crass. How much would something like that run somebody?
Yeah, I mean, essentially what we do at Ordinals Bot is like a lot of automation. So we try and take a lot of the manual work out of it the best we can. There's no getting around about the chain fees. That's like the biggest fee to all of this is actually putting this stuff on chain. So there's a consideration there in terms of like, if you want to do it now and the mempool's at really 200, then it's got to cost you like 10 times more than what it would have before. So the biggest charge is actually chain fees. And then, we do kind of, especially for Trevor, we do like a kind of white glove bespoke service where we'll scope it out with him. That scope grows bigger and bigger every day with Trevor. But anyway, we scope it out. And then we figure out, okay, you need to inscribe these traits, and we'll work with you in terms of getting the traits really as low as possible, really optimize them like I did with Trevor, essentially, to try and get that chain fee down. And then, usually we just make a package deal. So for example, we can do something like a percentage of the mint, for example, that might mitigate costs for people. We do essentially, we have a service fee on inscriptions. So for example, one thing we've seen that helped a lot was when on our launch pad, when people have maybe got 5,000 piece collection that they want to drop, instead of having to inscribe all those 5,000 and pay that hefty fee up front, we had this cool idea of doing lazy inscriptions. So essentially just give us the files and then we'll inscribe on demand, and you actually offload the network costs, which is quite small when you do one file, to the minter. So yeah, that's basically we're kind of we want to see the space grow. We're not out to like overcharge anybody, really. We want to make people come in and help them grow and help our own business grow in terms of maybe, okay, 5 people wanted this. Let's build a tool for that now and automate that process and charge a small fee for the greater good kind of thing. That's kind of the mentality we're going at. But it really depends on what you're trying to inscribe. If you want to do a 10K collection of 16 megabyte photos, and then it's difficult. You're really limited then, but need to optimize them down. But like Trevor, when there's options to really dive deep into what you're trying to inscribe and do these little tricks and things that I've learned, that's where we kind of get our thrills when we try to bring those network costs down. And then we just work out a deal, whether it's a percentage of the mint, or if we do, for example, if you want to pay up front, we wouldn't overcharge for that kind of stuff as well.
I love it. My dad would say if he didn't tell you, if he didn't give you a ballpark, it's probably out of your price range.
Yeah, it was a very political answer, I must admit. As soon as I stopped talking, I realized I didn't actually say a number. But anyway, yeah.
No. That's a very crass question, but I think is also something that everybody is wondering because being able, like, you have all these ideas, and like devs, especially with Rust or that's the language, right?
Rust, yeah.
Okay. Especially with Rust, devs are short. I mean, devs are just short in general. And so just being able to like make your dreams come true on Bitcoin is like one of the biggest hurdles. And finding people like yourself and people that are creating these things is very hard. And so I think just like highlighting what you're doing and being able to like kind of figure out a good encompassing kind of number is something that I think in the future, like it's going to be cheap compared to the future, but right now when we have all this hype and all of the deliciousness that is happening on Bitcoin right now, it's a definite question, and I'm hit up daily, and I don't have anybody to point them to. So now you're getting them all.
No, we love it. We love it. Just for some context as well, Magic Eden, who are obviously one of the biggest marketplaces in Ordinals, they slid in at my DMs and I looked at this guy and I'm like, this is definitely a scam. This is not Magic Eden, right? This is really early on in March. And they were just dipping their toe in the space, and they wanted to kind of, launch their Ordinals marketplace. And they looked at our API, looked at our tooling, and they wanted to get going quickly. So what we did for Magic Eden on their launch pad, like basically 90% of those early collections that they launched, they did through us, right? So we would take in the artist in our Discord that have a private channel. I would work one-to-one with their artist and essentially look at what they wanted to inscribe and bring it down. So we did lazy lines, we did all these things from other chains, and there was a lot of onboarding because we had to teach them about the mempool and when they're doing the mint and everything. So I did a lot of that, and I'm still doing a lot of that in a sense to just gauge what people want. And then now because we did that in the early days, we've been able to automate a lot of stuff and really extend our API. So now it's essentially a lot of the stuff our API can already do. So when projects come to us, we can often say, here's our API, start building. We'll definitely consult with you back and forth if you get any problems. If you need new features, we'll implement them. And that's been working really, really well for us. And that's more builders, right? But when more creative people come to us, we really have this kind of white glove thing where we'll just do it, and then we can work out a deal in terms of how much it costs. And in terms of spaces, I'd love to join. I think that that's a really great idea to try and educate other chains of the benefits of ordinals, and maybe especially people who are trying to get in and do something. For me, having also an NFT collection on Ethereum, right, and Stacks, it was a no-brainer for me to just try it, and we inscribed 100 new Satoshibles on ordinals at 50,000, and that's kind of just been an exciting thing to give to my community, right? We gave them out basically, and I think that any other chain, any other decent collection on Ethereum should do the same thing, because it's like, why would you not want to have a portion of your story, your ecosystem on Bitcoin? Like, what's the reason not to do that? So yeah, I would definitely love to talk to any collection on Ethereum or Polygon or any other chain, Cardano, whatever else, who want to inscribe stuff. Yeah, please reach out.
Did you say Cardano?
Yeah, it's a bad word. Yeah, I've never used it before in terms of NFTs, but it apparently has a thriving NFT community, and one project did reach out to us about it. So yeah, I had to.
Yeah, Chris is a Cardano maxi. Don't make sure not to insult Chris about Cardano.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
88.
Well, Buckstar, you are welcome on our Bitcoin Ordinals Banter, brought to you by Ninja Alerts, Chris Coffee, Ken, and I'm going to go ahead and include Witters in that because she's here all the time. So we appreciate you so much, Witters, and Belle, of course, for being here today. We missed you. I hope you've been great. Hope you have an amazing time in Art Basel. Buckstar, you dropped some heat tonight. I feel like I learned stuff about Ninja Alerts tonight.
Yeah, me and Trevor's been keeping it quite close to our chest. Yeah.
He gave the real deep alpha, man. So I really enjoyed that. When you said it's more than just a profile picture, it's like its own app. I'm like, whoa, it's like mind blowing to think about it like that. But yeah, thank you for joining us, Witters, Belle. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are here every Tuesday and Thursday at 6:30 Eastern time. We will be celebrating Thanksgiving this Thursday, though, so we'll not have a show this Thursday, talking about all things that are happening in the Bitcoin Ordinals space with a little bit of banter. With all that being said, if there's any concluding thoughts before we wrap it up? That's perfect. We will end on that note. Everybody have an